I always got to get loud from my video cast. It's just the way it is. I'm a loud person. I can't help it. I'm in a park by myself as usual. That's all I do is hang out by myself. And what I'm writing is called Linoleum Blown Apart. And Linoleum Blown Apart is a interwoven story that spans time and it spans media. It spans the media of punk rock. Don't forget, Duff McKagan was in a band called The Farts. And then, before you knew it, he was in the biggest band in the world. Okay, so there's a similar narrative here. And that's why I'm not worried about being sued for somebody else's likeness. Why? Because I was in a punk band. And then I wasn't in the biggest band in the world. I changed mediums because I was so influenced by cinema in punk rock, because it all emerged with VCR culture. Okay, I don't know why I look like this. I got some pretty good sleep, but I had one coffee and man, I want another one. I buy instant espresso and I drink tap water. That's what I do. I got some pretty good sleep last night, but this is not an ideal situation for me. It's not ideal conditions. I do leave comments on people's shows that I watch to try to get interest in this project, but I know that people know who I am. You know, that's why I'm not really worried about it, you know, at all. But anyway, so that's the story of Linoleum Blown Apart. And you can take a look at people like Sam Hyde and Tim Heidegger, okay? So they had beef. I watched both of their shows, by the way. And if you watch their shows, Sam Hyde, I guess he came out on the other side of a show called The Whitest Kids You Know. I don't know if you remember this show, but I certainly do. And I understand that the paradigm shifts. I get it. But we talk about a lot of things on the show. But Tim Heidegger and Sam Hyde from Million Dollar Extreme, they had beef. And of course, Tim Heidegger won, right? Because he's the media darling. He's the hipster. Take a look at his show. It's right here on YouTube. Everyone's on YouTube. I am. And I'm not going anywhere. Quite literally. And figuratively. Both ways. So, take a look at their shows. And you can see, once again, Tim Heidegger had They Might Be Giants on. That's my generation. I worked with John Flansburgh, okay, and we were working in the 1990s heroin chic MTV era. He worked really hard. He had great producers. I worked with them numerous times. And, you know, he was making indie music videos. Right? Just like his band. His band is still playing. Like I said, he's on the Tim Heidegger show. But you can see that kind of audience, right? He's got the gizzard lizard people. Whatever. I'm sorry, gizzard wizard. I didn't mean to say lizard. Sorry. We don't talk about lizard people on this show. Right? So he's got this whole hipster contingent. Now take a look at Sam Hyde, who's also right here on YouTube, okay? In case you don't know, there is no money to be made on YouTube. So stop acting like you're canceling somebody so they can't make any money. There is no money, okay? There is no money. If you're gonna make money, there's certain formulas that you have to follow, okay? So the days of making money on YouTube were 2015. That's it. By 2017, that was it. The whole pay structure changed, and that is 7 years ago now, guys. All right? So I'm not here for money. I'm here for Linoleum Blown Apart. That is my life's work. If you've been watching my show, then you know the story. You know, it's really, truly sad. Just the biggest... I can't say it. I don't like cussing anyways, but... Ugh. The people in my milieu in the 1980s punk rock scene in Detroit, hey man, I worked really hard for 10 years and they're still the same. They're still stuck in this tree sap is what I call it. So, you have Sam Hyde versus Tim Heidecker. Now, Tim Heidecker, he did a tour, and I watched it. It's right here on YouTube. You can watch him. He does it live, right? He's doing a live tour. He's in a theater somewhere, and he's doing non-jokes. But you understand, people are there to show up to laugh because of his show, Tim and Eric. It's very bizarre, very cool, right? Part of the quote-unquote hipster contingent. What are you gonna call it? What else are you gonna call it, right? He had Fred Armisen on. I'm a huge Fred Armisen fan. And by the way, John Waters was on Bill Maher, and John Waters is actually way more clever, funny, and can quip much better than Bill Maher. He's just like, he's so on it. He's only a few years older than Bill Maher. I'm talking about John Waters, the filmmaker, who, when I was a kid, I used to go see Divine. I used to go see Pink Flamingos and see all of his weird, gross out movies. That's why I can't understand what's happening now in this culture. People accept whatever that's prepackaged for them and given to them. Oh, am I supposed to be alt-white now? Well, then I'm supposed to hate this over here. You got Kid Rock shooting beer cans. I mean, this is just like absurd. Okay? So if you want to live orthogonally like that, and I know the key to it, it's a little something called transistors and frequency. It's as easy as that. Okay? So I talk about that on my phone. And what the Google is the rate of hertz where you can weaponize anything with a transistor. Okay? And that's how fast the rate is going on your device. And that's how they can weaponize your device. I told you I lived with a woman for 7 years and she was using it on me the entire time. I didn't know because I came in off the streets. I quit drinking alcohol. I came in off the streets, and so I just assumed I was suffering PTSD. You can see me, I'm completely relaxed. During the entire 7 years I was with her, she was torturing me nonstop. She knew about it, and so did other people. They knew about it. It was pretty horrific stuff. And then in 2018, they laughed about it. What I saw recently, and I was a little suspect about Roseanne Barr saying she was canceled. And at this point, I believe she was. And you can see the madness that they tried to bring back the Connors without Roseanne. It didn't make any sense, but they did it anyway. I mean, is this some kind of like... I don't want to say alternative universe, but what? But they brought it back anyway. It was almost like to spite Roseanne because she got canceled. I mean, this is a bizarre world that we're living in. And this is all driven by your device. Right? Because if you're on one side of the political divide, and then it's like, oh, okay, we can. And that's why we're talking about Tim Heidecker and Sam Hyde. So these two guys had beef. You go see Tim Heidecker, his live theater shows, and he's like, I'm going to be live here, I'm going to be live there, I'm going to be live. He does non-jokes. He does non-jokes that aren't funny. I mean, they're not funny to me. I like his show. I watch his show. That's what I'm saying. I critique what I watch. I'm not going to critique something. I'm not going to critique like somebody reviewing the Barbie film. Barbenheimer, that's right. Do you really think the Barbenheimer release this weekend of these two films, that epitomizes Sam Hyde versus Tim Heidecker right there. Tim Heidecker obviously being Barbie, right? Living in a Barbie world, right? There's nothing wrong with it. I lived in that exact same world when I was in Park Slope and Jackson Heights, Queens. Park Slope, Brooklyn, Jackson Heights, Queens. I was in that same world, and they were actually cranking this algo. They all know about it. All these hipster wankers know about it. My wife certainly did. Yeah. It was brutal. It makes you think that you're losing it, but you're not. You're not. That's what I'm here to tell you. And I did the right thing by seeking, you seek medication, consult your doctor, what I like to call smoke a joint with your doctor, see what they have to say. I have no problem going to a doctor, getting into a conversation. No problem with it. I'm not here to put down any kind of medical field. If you find the right medicine for you, good for you. Sometimes it takes a really long time to find these medicines. I spent years doing that as well. That's why I came out the other side. I'm on the other side of being black-pilled. I don't have anything to worry about except for Linoleum Blown Apart, which is what I'm writing. And what I'm trying to tell you is this, is that Sam Hyde's audience and Tim Heidegger's audience will both watch Linoleum Blown Apart. It's a given. I'm not saying they're the same audience. Now, what Sam Hyde's doing is really genius. It's great. He's got his buddy Nick, and they're doing Scuffed Realtor. They just did a reality show. I mean, these guys are knocking it out of the park. They get super chats all the time. They created their own small business. Okay, they actually have a couple of them. And you can see the fundamental differences in the two audiences, right? They've done this before with Seinfeld, and then you take away the laugh track, and it's just really disturbing and like bizarre and not funny. Take away the laugh track to Louis C.K. Now, I don't take anything away from these people. They're funny. I thought it was very bizarre that he was a producer on the Tig Notaro show with Diablo Cody, and they have someone in there like wanking in the office. Maybe that's when he left the show or something. Or maybe they put it in there because he does that and everybody knew it. But if you watch Louis C.K., Carnal Knowledge, Louis Carnal Knowledge, right? And you took away that laugh track, how funny would it be? I'm talking about this new one where he comes out and he's got a sweatshirt on, so there's a big stain on it. He like, I didn't shave, but he's like really non-shaven. He just comes out, tells his jokes. He talks about the Bible. He's taking the mick out of the exoteric stories in the Bible, the possible historicity, right? The surface level. Man, this squirrel is busting my chops, man. They're getting bold around here. Man, they're so fat, they're like eating squirrels. He's over here drinking out of a puddle. Look at him. Oh man, he's thirsty. Anyways, it gets on my nerves. I'm over here eating a Pop-Tart, and the thing comes right up to me, like, eat the fucking whatever he finds on the ground. The people come here and they eat their food, they drop stuff. I bet you he's gonna eat this frickin' tomato. If you're gonna eat this tomato, eat it over there. Vitamin. Might come in handy when I do get hungry. Oh boy, that's right. Living life like a hobo. In case you don't know, I am homeless in Los Angeles. And that's how I do my show. And I come on here nearly every single day. And I was lucky, I went over to the community house over here in West Hollywood, and it was just like the American Indian Community House. Everyone welcomes you with open arms. You're part of the family. You become part of the community. And it felt great. It was really, really quite wonderful. And that's what I'm trying to talk about today. These fake and forced dialectics. And these things are being supercharged by the Google. So if you have something rotating at so many hertz per second, right? When you put that thing up to 10 to the 100th power, which is the Google, now it's weaponized. Now any transistor has a weaponized algorithm. I call it algo. I call them algo ops. And it can cause you to go down. This is a neurological weapon. It will cause you to hit the ground. And it can cause other things. In my situation, my wife had it cranked so high that I started yelling. So this is called verbal abuse. This is an arrestable offense. This is why this weapon does not work. And I'm living proof of it. And people can't handle it. And people in Detroit couldn't handle that I had talent. They just couldn't handle it. I don't know why. And it started this thing where everybody started calling me Zoolander. And it just got out of control. Before I knew it, the son of a newspaper reporter used my likeness in a murder article about a murder back in Detroit. Yeah. We're going to see about you, son. We're going to see about you. So, we're talking about Sam Hyde and Tim Heidegger. And Sam Hyde's audience is not Tim Heidegger's audience. But I told you, the best part is, they're both Linoleum Blown Apart audiences. They'll both watch the show. Everyone's going to watch this show. Because you have Ken Burns. Ed Burns. They give him an entire series. It's a coming-of-age story. Nobody watched it. Nobody cared. Greg Araki got some traction with the Archies, and it was nice and dark. And this is the kind of series that Linoleum Blown Apart is going to be. You betcha Bippy. That's right. I used to be the Giddy, GDI. That is my own personal cryptocurrency. And if we have equanimity, which is what that term means, then I'm my own cryptocurrency. I called all this stuff beep, beep, beep a long time ago. But it takes me a while to get these ideas going and get these ideas brewing. A lot of people, they have their show, and their show is like, they have their show for like 10 years. You know, they'll have their channel, rather, for 10 years. I think I started mine, I don't know, about a dozen years ago. But, you know, I wasn't really doing much because I was actually trying to provide for the household that me and my wife made together as a couple. And it ended brutally. I was down in Florida. People were laughing about it. They were cranking the algo so high. You can get sexualized by this algo. I call it algo. It's if you say it's a frequency, then you tend to sound like what's the frequency, Kenneth, right? But that's how it works. When you don't, it's not. You got to learn why something works the way it does, and it is tapping into your neurological system, and it is brutal. And everybody's cell phone does it. Everybody's cell phone does it. There you go. Nude on a staircase. There you go. Nude on a staircase. I'm really into this type of cubist, into abstract art. I am not into pop art at all. I think the art movements stopped at pop art. I don't think there's been any really new art movements since then. I mean, there might be little hits here and there, but none that really registers to me. I was an art handler in Hipsterville, Greenpoint, Brooklyn? Greenpoint, or whatever it was, where different people were using this weapon on me, man, and it can make you cry as well. And it's nothing nice, and people have no right using this weapon. I try to tell you, I'm not even a felon. When I had an MTV Beach House moment with a co-core, well, it takes one to know one. Right? It takes one to know one. And three can keep a secret if two are dead. And I kept my mouth shut for years. Okay? Take a look at Joe Biden. I have a picture of him in a bust right next to Robert Kennedy. He's pictured because he's a Catholic. And look at how frail his health is. I was the one who called that there's a good possibility that it could be White House down. And it's not just a sandbag that's going to bring him down. Like, his health will fail. And you can see, they said Dick Cheney had all these hearts put in. Well, if these are mechanical hearts, then they're probably working off of what? They're working off of a frequency. So these electrical jabs, just like in Frankenstein, are more than likely keeping the president going. I actually have to agree with Mika Brzezinski. She got on the air. I caught a little bit of it. And she was really angry at Joe Biden's team. And she's like, where is his team that they're not looking out for him? How come these things keep happening to him, that he keeps tripping and falling? And I said, exactly. I said, exactly. That's why it's more interesting to listen to the phone call between Tim Heidegger and Sam Hyde than it is to read a tabloid story about their beef. Oh my God, what happened? Why? Because through Media Deep Blue, when I heard something happened to Madonna, what do you want from me? I'm an old punk rocker. And one of my characters is based on Madonna, a little bit. And it's not the one you think. I got 4 different stories. Nearly none of them were even close to similar to each other. It was like 4 different stories about what happened to her. If anything at all happened to her. I don't know, it might be Media Deep Blue. I also saw Roseanne And it was very touching. I was worried that, like I said, Roseanne was LARPing a little bit, and she, on her show, she said how hurt she was by that entire thing. Like, you can't even make a simple joke. You can't even make a simple joke without getting canceled. And she was canceled, and you could see the millions of dollars that went into that show. They're like, we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to do it to spite you. And all these people are going to get paid, and you're not. Whoa, dude. Whoa. Is this the world that we're going into? Is this the world we're accelerating into? It seems as though we already have. We've already accelerated into it. So take a look at Sam Hyde and Tim Heidecker. Sam Hyde's show is really great. The guys love his show. And he's got his buddy, the scuffed realtor, Nick. And they give guys this really practical advice. And this is the stuff that you don't get in school for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, when you're in school, they're not teaching you how to buy a car, how to fix your credit, how to buy a house. You should be learning this stuff for when, as soon as you get out of school. That's when you should be learning this stuff. In school, for when you immediately you get out of school. You should be learning this stuff in high school. You know what? You know what I learned in high school, guys? I learned that Benjamin Franklin had a key on a kite, and he discovered electricity. They taught us that at Robinson Elementary School in Detroit. Tell me I'm wrong. Anyone from Robinson, you're welcome to chime in. Anyone's welcome to share my show. Of course, I'm trying to grow my show, but I'm not really worried about it because the powers that be, right here in Hollywood, know who I am, and they know why I'm here. And I'm not worried about it. Because my show, Linoleum Blown Apart, will have both the hipster audience, that is Tim Heidecker, and Sam Hyde's audience too. And that you're tapping, by this show, Linoleum Blown Apart, that you will see get made, you're tapping into this. You're tapping into these kids. Take a look at Sam Hyde's audience. You think they're really going to suffer through a Tim Heidecker show? When he goes out on stage and he tells non-jokes and they're really painful, and if the people are there to laugh and they're there to get drunk, so they're going to laugh at anything. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. Louis C.K., he's got a built-in audience. His audience are going to laugh at no matter what he does. I laugh. I'm not saying I don't laugh. I do laugh. I enjoy it. I enjoy watching stuff like that. We all do, right? But I'm going to call out things that are painful. Things like Greg Fitzsimmons. Ugh. The guy's not funny, and he might as well be a whack packer just like Shuley. They are whack packers. Now, they sat there and they created their shows, Greg Fitzsimmons and Shuley. They created their shows making fun of whack packers, making fun of Stuttering John. Meanwhile, Stuttering John has a house. He's got a wife. He's doing very well. He was very successful. I couldn't stand the guy. He had no talent, but I would never take that away from him. The guy got lucky. I could never take that away. But Greg Fitzsimmons and Shuley have become the whack packers. Can you see this? Do you see the paradigm shifting, guys? And that's what's going on. That's why I was never worried about it. Beach House MTV moment doesn't define me as a human being. All my work before that and all my work after that, that's why they have to isolate stuff like that, right? That's why. And that's why they have to come up with putting, vitriolic stuff on the internet and stuff like that. It gets your ire. I was listening to, now, I want to hammer this home, that Sam Hyde, his audience, these guys are gamers. These guys are that TV show, I don't know if you remember it, it's called The Whitest Kids You Know. It came out before this last schmang, this last election where everybody lost their minds. Oh yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people are using this tech. And I know who they are. I know who they are, and some of them I've named right on this show. And this tech can make you amorous. and it makes you so out of it, you don't know what you're doing. Oh yeah. And I think those are called cults. You know, when young girls or whoever, maybe young guys, get someone's initials tattooed on them, that's when you know that you have them. That's the telltale mark. Now you can go in and you can begin having carnal relations. I'm sorry, I meant to say carnal relations with him. So we're talking about Louis C.K. C.K. stands for carnal knowledge. Right? I used to listen to a band called the FUs. In case you don't know, I'm a kid from the 80s. And that's what my project is about. It's called Linoleum Blown Apart. And it's about a kid. And you have to have this timeline. You have to have it. But I don't know, it depends on how much you want to put it in somebody's face. It's kind of cool to Easter egg a lot of people. And on our record, which I didn't really have anything to do with, I'm talking about the grievance committee, the real one, not the fake one from Ohio, which people connected to the guy who wrote the article about me allegedly being a murderer, that he's going to pay dearly for, possibly with his own life. Who knows? If you believe in karma, you might believe in those things. Or if somebody gets struck down in the streets, then you might say, wow, that was God doing that work. Eh? You know, I knew my hooks were good, and all these songs are going into this property. So they have a fake grievance committee down in Ohio. That's where they created this fake movie, something about an asp, right? It's an extending baton for beating somebody with. And this comes from the St. Clair Shores Police Department at their 7-Eleven. And then they created this entire fake narrative, and they LARPed me for like 8 years, and people I know knew all about this, including women who were my ex-girlfriend and their mother, who sent a fake police officer, or whatever he was, undercover police officer, to LARP me in New York because she turned on the TV and saw me in some stupid music video. She was working too. So I'm not in a competition with anybody. And so they began calling me Zoolander, and then it spread and it spread and it spread and it spread. And I just kept going. And I'm continuing to go to this day. I don't really care. Like I said, the only guy to bring up Zoolander to me, to my face, was a guy who couldn't handle his dope, and he's dead. I call him Whiskey Dick Dan. Good riddance. I don't even know you, dude. And that's the whole thing about this, what's going on. It's like a bunch of strangers keep coming up to me, acting out around me. They're all fed rats. Everybody's a rat. You understand? I told you with accelerationism, the left have cancel culture and the right have memes. The memes are funnier. There's nothing funny about cancel culture. It's just cruel. It's like burning ants with a spyglass. You know what I'm talking about. Magnifying glass. It's like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with burning ants? Right? But Sam Hyde and his show, what do they call it? SNL or something like that? Sam Hyde and his show are giving guys practical advice. That's what these guys want. That's what guys like me wanted and we needed, and we were interested in that. They're interested in cars. They're interested in buying houses. They're interested in cranking up their credit. They're interested in cryptocurrencies. You know what Tim Heidegger's interested in? They're interested in this hipster motif. So they don't really float in the same world. So they don't really have anything in common with each other. But yet, here they are. They both exist. And they're both right here on YouTube. I'm YouTube exclusive, and I have every right to be here. I don't care what Google has to say, because I got you sussed. Because I listen to people like Frances Haugen. And you have to read between the lines, which is something that I knew about when I was a kid. That's why you can't throw away your boomers, your Gen Xers, nor your not so silent generation people. Because everybody has value. Everybody does. Except for the squirrel. Boy, I tell ya, he's bold. Why don't you eat that plastic and choke on it? Ugh. So what does he do? He does. I wish I could show it to you. You guys want to see this? Ugh. I don't want to pick it up. Ugh, he's so annoying, this squirrel. Ugh, he's so chubby. You know, it'd be a good eating squirrel. Yeah. Yeah, with that, he threw it down and took off. Guys! Ugh. Anyway. So, So, with the show Linoleum Blown Apart that you will see, that's why I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all. Right? I also have numerous properties. One is called Animals. It's about cloning animals. What's the other one? I'd like to do Golden Years. And Golden Years, you have to go out and you have to interview the boomers and the not-so-silent generation. And we're going to animate their stories and turn them into animation. And that is going to be part of the show, but it's only going to be one part of the show. Because you're going to have a regular narrative about an old rock and roll guy always trying to get the band back together, right? And it's kind of like that show Mother or Mom, I can't remember it, Chris Pratt's old lady or whatever, and people were on there. I can't remember people's names, right? And so then you can actually have these rock stars showing up on the show and doing jam sessions. So you're going to have rock stars on the show. It's called Golden Years. You got to have the Bowie song. We're going to talk about Bowie, and we're going to talk about the fact that he was a fascist. Because when you have Walter and his time and his wife Eva, what are they about? Walter is innocent. He's the idiot. He is the innocent one. He has to be. And that's the route that I took as well, because I'm a creative type. And the only two creative people in my family are me and then my oldest sister. And so you have these three people in my family, including my stepdad. That's four. You have my two sisters, and always closest to my mother, and that's the core of the family. And everybody else is relegated to the side. Well, look at me. I'm the most creative person. What do they know about creativity? Nothing. They're not creative people at all. They're left side of the brain people. Me and my oldest sister are right side of the brain people. Okay? That's the only difference. And that has nothing to do with a person's quote-unquote sexuality. It has nothing to do with that. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you a story. I always do. I got a million stories. There was an LGBT person who fell in love with my mother. In case you don't know, my mother looks like Rosario Dawson. And we are part Lumbee Native. Now that's First American. I believe that we're so mixed, racially mixed, that somewhat proves that you are East Coast American Indian. That's what you are. There's no way that I could have this Heinz 57 flowing through my bloodstream if we weren't early Americans. How early? I don't know. Everybody's a social anthropologist these days. It only interests me as far as knowing about my personal family. I don't really care about your personal family. And I really don't believe many people participate in ancestor worship. That's one of the oldest religions there is. Okay, so if you want to talk about religions and people want to talk about where they're from and they want to talk about this and they want to talk about that, because racism is in fact fake and it's fomented and it's created and it's put out there definitely by these quote-unquote alphabet agencies. Now take a look at this Jim Caviezel movie. Here we go again. This is all 2017 all over again. When I was online in 2017 and I heard about kids being kidnapped and hurt, I got emotionally involved. Unfortunately, for the powers that were involved in this, because don't call it a comeback, son, I've been here for years. You better know that's right. They were running ops at the same time. So this is how I was able to put this together. And that was 7 years ago, guys. Look at what they're doing. 7 years. Oh, everybody forgot. What'd you forget about shipping containers full of children being kidnapped? That's the narrative of this movie. And they're still pushing it to this day. I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to call bullshit on everything. I think the right has been LARPed, and I think the left has been LARPed. I think they're LARPing both sides. They, meaning who's ever involved in this. I think they're fully capable of making up stories on both sides of the aisle to get you emotionally invested. The best part about Linoleum Blown Apart that you will watch, and Sam Hyde's audience as well as Tim Heidegger's audience will watch it. They'll all watch it. It's certainly not going to be Ed Burns. It's not going to be his audience. Who is that audience? I have no idea. It reminds me of the song, Summer Breeze Makes Me Feel Fine, blowing through the jasmine in my mind. Everyone's doing a coming of age story. Mine's not a coming of age story. Mine is a bizarre tragedy. Mine is going to look like a John Waters film. Take a look at John Waters on the Bill Maher show in his lava lamp, blacklight poster basement with terrible lighting. Whose idea was that? So everybody has to have 7 podcasts? I mean, even I was guilty. I started another channel called Fallen Angelinos. And I was supposed to get coverage here of certain things that I see. I see a lot of things happening a lot. You know, and again, whatever. You get a viral video, like, who cares? How do you know you're even going to get paid? You don't. And again, the problem is if you do, there you go. Now you're off to the races. Now you're trying to match that. You're trying to get another one. You're trying to get another one. You're trying to get another one. Oh, I can get another viral video. Good for you. What I was going to do, I was going to start a dumpster diving channel. I love dumpster diving channels. And if you're a Christian, it's called The Gleaning. It's called not being wasteful. But we live in a wasteful society. Okay. Yeah. I had my new coffee today. I don't know. Am I feeling it? Am I just kind of out of it? I don't know. It's tough to say. So, we're developing the show, and we know that in school you should be learning about credit. You should be learning about cryptocurrency. You should be learning about all this kind of stuff that once you get out of school, then they start charging you. You can get with our credit agency. It's only $30 a month, and we'll help you build your credit. You should be learning all of this stuff in school, okay? I'm telling you right now, what's happening is they have to redo NATO because of BRIC. They have to redo all of that stuff. And NATO is from the Cold War, okay? And so this is what I'm trying to show you, that this recurrence is playing out again and again. NATO was started because of the Cold War, and here we have a Catholic president in office. I don't wish harm on anybody, but Jesus, take a look at some of these memes, will ya? They're pretty brutal. And I caught something with RFK's bust and the Great White Hope, your president and ours. Don't forget the electoral college picks the president. The people don't. It's just a popularity contest. Just like the skinheads in Detroit. It's all just a big popularity contest scored in. People that I knew and I played in bands with knew that they were cranking these algos on me. They're laughing about it. We're going to see about you. It's going to be so awesome. Like I said, I always knew I had talent. And when I say nurturing talent, it doesn't mean coddling. It means you got to have the apparatus there. And that's what I'm talking about when I live out on the streets and I got to eat on $6 per day. That's our money. And you have no right making people wait 10 months to get their unemployment just because you're waiting for them to drop off. Because something's going to happen in their life. They could be hit by a car or something like that, and they're going to miss a phone call. Oh, sorry. You don't get anything. These are government gangsters, and they act more. Let me tell you something. The kids are more well-behaved on the playground than these people in the government. These people act like they're in high school. Younger than high school. And they do it with our benefits. They do it with the amount of money that we're getting after I paid into payroll taxes my entire life since 1978, guys. So, again, what I'm getting people interested in is my property called Linoleum Blown Apart, and where are we in the story? You have to watch my show every day. I give you new things every single day. I smack talk the shows that I actually watch. I don't shoot fish in a barrel. I think that's weak. I think it's dumb. I think it's boring. Like Sam Hyde and Tim Heidegger. So stupid. The best thing is the phone call. Checking it out for yourself. I don't post things in the description. I don't do anything for you guys. You got to do things yourself. I did things myself. I went out into the world, and what I found was that the government, yeah, is a hell of a lot more ruthless than any of these street gangs. And not only that, that they work together now, symbiotically. And that's how the world works. And through my property, Linoleum Blown Apart, we're going to go back in time. We're going to tap back into that innocence. You need that innocence. You need that wholesomeness. You can never lose that. That's what they say, you know, the child remains within the person, within the human, because man means hands. It doesn't mean gender. Okay? It remains within the person who has the hands. You have to have that innocence, right? And that's what I found when I'm doing all this right side of the brain stuff, right? I have this innocence. I'm going in, I'm like, okay, let's just start. I have my guitar. That's usually how I start. I'm a guitar player. I'm a terrible guitar player, and let me just find this pattern. Let me find this pattern. Let me hear this pattern. And I'll noodle and noodle and noodle and noodle and noodle all day. And then a pattern will emerge, okay? Now what are we gonna do? We're gonna keep working that pattern. We're gonna keep working that pattern. The way I work the dough when I work at the pizzeria. Before you know it, I'm spinning a pie. And the larger I spin it, you know, that's gonna get thinner and thinner and thinner and spread out. You get a nice thin crust. Or, you know, if you want Detroit style, get the thick crust. Right? So, this is my approach to the arts and creativity. And this is my approach to Linoleum Blown Apart, the on-demand series, which is about a punk rock kid who has the same birthday as Napoleon. It's as simple as that. Everybody was in a punk rock band in the 80s. So this takes place in 1987 when he's 17. And what happens 10 years later? It's 1996. And it's getting ready to be his birthday. And he's going to be 27. What's going to happen to him? We don't know. We have to make this a mystery. Much like, you know how this started was on David Lynch's, on his channel, in his comment section, I just started writing in people's comment sections. I write in Drew Barrymore's comment section, but I'm not a fan of hers from like a long time ago. That's like cringe. I think she's hotter now. I think she's more hotter now than she's ever been in her life because of her age. I love women that age. You know what, squirrel? Think I'm making it up? Why I tell you? No. Heel. Scat. Alright, sorry. Oh, I'm feeling it today, guys. I don't know why. It was pretty hot the last couple of days. I had to get some food. I went to a community house right here in West Hollywood. I was gonna say West Los Angeles. I don't know. And I felt really welcome because they welcomed me at the American Indian Community House in New York City in 1992. And we also had people from the Philippines there who couldn't get acting jobs. And what do we have now? We have Joe Coy, right? That was back in the United Colors of Benetton era. You remember that campaign? How ahead of its time is that? And now everybody's making fun of diversity hires. They're making it seem like people are going out of their way to hire people of color, and that's simply not true because we had integration for so many years. That's why I consider it to be wordplay, right? What's it called? Affirmative action. It's nothing more than wordplay. Of course you're going to get people from different ethnicities because we're all merging in this Western culture at the same time. But you see how they can turn that into a dialectic? You see how they can turn it like, oh, they're doing it on purpose. Oh my God. These people still believe that just because they were part of the Anglo establishment, that has something to do with them, right? I said, do you participate in ancestor worship? It's like once you learn the system, right? Once this Western culture spread, then anyone can master the Western culture. We could see that. From any tribe of people, we could see that. Anyone can master this way of thinking, and it helped to advance this way of thinking. And most of it went through the Frankfurt School, right? And they talk about socialism, okay? Where before, I remember voting for Jill Stein, and I was voting, because I couldn't vote for that libertarian guy. I mean, he was just like out of it. I'm more of a libertarian. And people were aghast when it came to socialism. They're like, no, we're not really into that. But now look, and then by the next election, possibly, what was it, 8 years later, everyone's talking about socialism. They're like, yeah, man, right? Because it's coupled with the economy. The economy is crushing. It's going way down. And this is by design, and they're doing this at the same time as NATO, okay? And again, we don't participate in ancestor worship, but we wouldn't have a Darwin if it wasn't for Darwin's grandfather, right? This is just a carryover from the Atlantic power structure, from the Royal Society. And these are the true privileged people, not some idiot with a mullet like Theo Vaughn. That's not what excuse me, Anglo privilege is. They're talking about the Anglo elite, people who come from the Royal Society, okay? And they married into these large families, and part of those families are the who is it? Doors of Perception? That guy? I just make fun of him. Aldous Huxley, the suchness, the hipster. Hey, I created the Doors, man. They're one of the greatest bands of the 1960s. That's right. I'm Aldous Huxley. And his brother, Julian Huxley, was part of UNICAL. What's it called? Unisex? UNESCO, okay? And that was very similar to the United Nations. This goes back to the Rockefellers, and again, this goes back to some of these big families, and there's nothing, quote-unquote, racist about talking about this, right? Because that is the true power structure elite. And everyone was talking about this new aeon that we're in right now. This is the new aeon. Eyes wide open. Right? Because it's all been bastardized. You guys ever notice, like, Socrates? I was listening to his rebuttal. There's a translated version, of course, and he, like, looks like this, like, doesn't Socrates, like, look like this, like, a little bit? Hey, that guy was 70 years old. Is that bust correct at all? Is he mixed race? I don't even think these people know what race is. I think they're morons. I think they just talk in platitudes. They have specious comments. They don't really know what they're talking about. I've been studying etymology for over a decade, and that's where I come in. And Stanley Kubrick was studying the etymology of train stations in London, in England, I meant to say, the UK, United Kingdom. And that's who one of the characters is very similar to, is a Stanley Kubrick character in Linoleum Blown Apart. That's right, because you can't just have one narrative going on. And what Linoleum Blown Apart is an intertwining of these narratives. Okay? You have the kid who finds out that he's got the same birthday as Napoleon. How does he find that out? Through the film of Walter that he picks up with the VCR, VHS tape, I meant to say. He puts it in the machine, and that's how they're watching it. Everybody has these rabbit-eared televisions. Everybody has a VCR. It's VCR culture era. And so they begin watching this film called Bonaparte Bon Ami. It's called My Friend Napoleon. And that is a, right, I always talk about these, I told you I got new coffee today. I should have taken it intravenously. I'm feeling it, guys. Not sure why. But we're going to wrap it up here. You want to sit down? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We got people coming over. They want to sit down. I got to wrap up the show a little bit, but these are parallels in the life of characters in the story. Okay, so Walter, when he learns about this film Napoleon, which is a 5-hour silent film, that's why he makes Bonaparte Bon Ami. Okay, and right, and he feels like he's the friend of Napoleon, and the film Bonaparte Bon Ami influences Lenny from Linoleum Bonaparte to create the band, who is the reincarnation of Napoleon. I swear to, if this is your first time watching, you gotta go back. You gotta watch the old episodes, right? We got people showing up. They want to sit in the shade. I got people around me. I don't want to yell too loud, because that's what I do on my show. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. Please comment below. Take a look at some of the things that I talk about, and take me to task anytime, anywhere. Cheers.